Hello guys, my name is SVB and I'm back with another video, and today we're going to look at the dreaded bunker comp that has left players scratching their head how to beat, and we're going to tear it down. So we're going to look at each of the three roles and identify characters that are well equipped to brave through the bunker, particularly bunkers centered around Bastion. So let's get to it guys. So before we get into talking about which heroes can break a bunker, it's important to first summarize A, why a bunker comp is so strong, and B, why it falls apart when it does. Just so we're on the same page, a bunker comp is essentially an Orisa paired with the D.Va, Bastion, Baptiste, Mercy, and then another DPS of choice. Now, some people switch a few of these characters around, so for example a D.Va for a Roadhog or a Zen for the Mercy, and we'll talk about what the consequences of those changes are, but the core purpose and ideology of the bunker comp remains the same. Essentially, as the name suggests, a bunker comp relies on sitting in one fortified position and becoming as hard to dislodge as possible. For that reason, it's obviously more suited to defense, where you don't have to move as long as you stop the attackers from touching point. Bunker comps win by pretty much one simple metric: damage. With Bastion having the highest DPS in the game, bunker comps rely on just outputting more damage than a normal composition can handle at long distance. Bunker comps also rely on outranging most other comps, because characters like Bastion and Orisa can shoot really far away without any drop in damage. Orisa's shield allows for great protection, and because it refreshes relatively quickly, it allows Bastion the comfort of keeping a safe distance and always being able to shoot in turret form. Now already, understanding the strengths of the bunker comp, you should be able to guess what its weaknesses are. Bunker comps do not like to move, and they do not like it when you're too close. Essentially, because a bunker comp is so reliant on being clumped up, if you can pull the characters away from each other, or if they voluntarily split apart, then the bunker becomes fairly easy to break apart. And if you can cover the distance to the bunker without dying, easier said than done, then the bunker loses its strength of being able to out DPS you. In a really close range, you can out DPS the bunker comp because its tanks and healers are very reliant on the DPS, namely Bastion in this setup, to do the damage. Another weakness of the bunker is that it needs almost all its members alive to function. Unlike most other comps, who can still manage without one or two members, if the bunker comp loses a couple characters, it will completely fall apart. That's why, if you break a bunker once, it will stay broken, and it often becomes time for them to switch. Particularly if you kill Bastion or Orisa, the bunker becomes useless. Of course, this is why the bunker comp runs a Mercy, to res one of those vital characters. But, if she's swapped out, or if you can kill her and or two characters, then you will achieve the same result. Now let's look at ways to do that, shall we? If you want to break a bunker down, the best way to do it is to play a DPS heavy comp, often with dive tanks, and ideally just one dive tank, that being Hammond. Why is this the case? Well, think about it. What are tanks good at? They have large HP pools and big hitboxes designed to soak up damage for their team. Some of them also have high HP shields designed to provide protection for their team. What is Bastion good at? Just outputting a crazy amount of damage in one general direction. All he has to do is hold down his primary fire button, and he will melt shields and fat tanks in a matter of seconds. He negates the protection factor that tanks bring, and if tanks can't protect their team or stay alive, then why would you pick them? DPS meanwhile are much harder to kill for Bastion, not only because they have comparatively tiny hitboxes, but also because most of them have mobility abilities that make them hard to pin down. A scattered, DPS heavy comp forces Bastion to split his attention. If you run Orion Zarya and you're all clumped up behind Orion shield, then the minute it breaks, which it will do fast, all Bastion has to do is continue to aim in your general direction to output mass amounts of damage. If you're all small, hard to follow characters who are running around in 4 different directions, Bastion is going to have to be looking around everywhere, and that's when he's most vulnerable. It's no accident that his headshot hitbox is behind him in turret mode, because that's where he's weakest. So, to give you the simplest and most straightforward solution, I would run a triple DPS comp with Hammond, 3 mobile DPS, and 2 healers like Mercy and Ana, Lucio/Zen. Or, you could even go with a Hammond, Mercy, quad DPS comp. That's equally viable. I will talk through other options as we go along this video, but this is the best logical counter. So we're going to work on the assumption that you're aiming to run something like this. However, I know how solo queue is, and I know how ladder is. I know how stubborn and stupid people can be, which is why I'm going to take the time to explain what each role can do to unlock the bunker in their own way. So let's start with the role that probably has the most power when it comes to breaking the bunker, and that is the DPS. There are a whole host of options from the DPS roster that can be very effective at breaking the bunker. And that's another reason why DPS heavy comps are so good against it. Usually, people don't need much encouragement to run DPS heavy comps anyways in ladder. So let's start with what I would say is the strongest singular counter to the bunker comp, and that is Sombra. Why is Sombra so strong? Well, almost every hero in a bunker setup relies on their abilities very heavily. So with EMP, you can pretty much make every character in a bunker comp about 10% as effective as they'd normally be. No Orisa shields, no Bastion turret mode, no Baptiste immortality, no defense matrix or Roadhog hook. All these characters become free farm for your team. So really, it's quite straightforward when you play Sombra. Just use your invisibility to get somewhere in behind the enemy team. Drop your translocator down near a health pack, then go back to where the enemy is set up. If you see someone that you can hack, particularly the Orisa, Bastion, or off tank, then go ahead and hack them. That can also be a huge window opportunity for your team to collapse on top of them. But even if you don't land the hack, just start pumping in as much damage as you can and work towards building the EMP. Because I guarantee you that if you hit it on all 6 of them, you will win the fight as long as your team are alive and you've communicated your intentions to them. Just invis, damage, translocate over and over again. I promise it works. A lesser version of Sombra in this scenario is Tracer. Like Sombra, Tracer can also get past chokes and into the backline easily, negating the threat of a bunker to herself at least. After that, her job is similar: do damage, annoy, and farm ult. With Tracer, you're focused entirely on damage as opposed to the utility of the EMP. Your job is to get a pick, or, failing that, build a pulse bomb and land a stick on the Bastion. It won't instantly kill him, but it will make him so low that he will be very easy to finish from that point on.
Oh, I'm dead.
Okay, that's 1 for 1, that's 1 for 1.
Baptiste dead.
Bastion,
Orso
Bastion 1, Bastion 1, Bastion 1, Bastion down. Mercy's resing. Make sure you wait for Immortality Field to go down though, or, as in the case of the example I just played, for Baptiste to be dead already. And of course, watch for D.Va Defense Matrix. Another DPS who's really strong at breaking bunker comps is Pharah, because she's one hero who can legitimately outrange the bunker. Because Pharah's rockets have no fall off damage, you can just keep laying them in from as far away as possible with the intention of either breaking the shield or bypassing it and putting down damage into the enemy team. With a Mercy Pocket, the poke damage you receive will be negligible, and once you build Barrage, you either get your team to go in and distract for you to drop it, or you sneak around and make Justice rain from behind. But one of the strongest things Pharah can do is actually one of the simplest. Something like this. As I said above, dislodging the bunker is often as good as breaking it, and if you can knock off characters like Roadhog or Orisa, they will struggle to get back to where they were before, and you should be able to collapse and kill them easily. Next up, another viable option is Genji. I've spoken about this before in my DPS thought process video, so I won't dwell on it too much. But again, Dragon Blade is a great way to break any comp, including bunker, particularly when paired with a nano boost. Now, gone are the days when turning on Deflect as Genji was enough to kill Bastions. You do need to be a little bit smarter than that. So Genji is not necessarily someone who can harass backlines quite like Sombra and Tracer does. And if you get there and stay there, you're probably going to end up doing an AKM and not achieve much. What you really need to do is poke as much as you can, and then dash in when your team does commit to a jump. Ultimately, it's all about your ultimate. Now, you might already have seen a pattern here, guys, with what I'm telling you to do. Go in, build ult, and then try to break the bunker. And the reason for that is simple. You're not really supposed to break bunkers instantly. For you to just jump in with a dive and kill them easily requires them to mess up really badly, and you can't rely on that. If it happens, then great, but the key to breaking a bunker comp is patience. A bunker will win most of the vanilla fights, because it's set up to do that, but what it can't handle is powerful ults. In the traditional setup, there's no defensive ult available to a bunker, and Immortality Field can only do so much. So powerful ultimates break the bunker down quickly. If, let's say, the bunker is running Zenyatta, then sure, they can Transcendence to counter some of your ultimates, but just to do that, they lose a lot. Firstly, they lose the ability to damage boost the Bastion. Discord Orb is good if the Bastion is targeting the character, but it won't help Bastion mow down shields, or just blindly dish out damage the way he does. More importantly, the bunker will lose the res, meaning that now, killing the Bastion even once will guarantee you a win in the next fight, even if all 6 of you die to do it. Almost every first point on hybrid and assault maps has a spawn advantage for attackers, so in that scenario, you could play a kamikaze style and just try to take them down with you. And if they get greedy and they run a Roadhog instead of a D.Va, well, now you have another option. You can just run on the point. If they all move, you jump on them, and if they send just the Roadhog, it's really easy to anti-nade or crowd control him when he's healing himself and destroy him. So generally, you want to build ults, and particularly DPS ults, which are very powerful and would almost guarantee fight wins. Potentially, you could run so many more DPS. The ones I pointed out are just some of the most effective. You could run Hanzo and Widow to try and bring pick potential to your comp, and Hanzo will bring some shield break too, and Dragon Strike is a nice way to force the bunker to at least reset up for a second. You could play Mei and try to wall them off, and I'm sure you could justifiably play quite a few of the other DPS too. But moving on, let's head to tanks and talk about what they can do to break a bunker. Like I've mentioned, the best tank to handle the situation is Wrecking Ball, for a couple reasons. Firstly, he's by far the best tank at self-sustaining, and with a multi-DPS, scattered, low healing comp, that is what you need. He's really mobile and can get out of sticky situations, and he can use his shields to make himself nearly impossible to kill. In terms of helping dislodge the bunker though, his job is actually really simple. Do something like this. I'm gonna go for the boop. Orisa's down. Get the Orisa.
Get the Orisa.
Like Pharah, Hammond has the ability to use his hook to dislodge members of the bunker off high ground, and once they're off, they're easy pickings. So just get yourself in behind with your mobility and let your team know when you plan on rolling on through. Now, if you want to run more than just Hammond as a tank, then there's another person who's pretty good at dislodging bunkers, and that's D.Va. Why? Well, much like the DPS, she has an ult that can guarantee value. As long as you wait for the immortality field to be on cooldown, throwing in self-destruct will guarantee that at absolute worst, you force the bunker to split up and hide, already a win. And at best, you get a few kills, which will bring the whole thing tumbling down. On top of that, Defense Matrix, at least for the time being, is great at buying your team a couple seconds if it's put around the Bastion. If you plan a well-coordinated dive, you might just take him or some of his teammates down while Defense Matrix negates his value. Speaking of well-coordinated dive, though he's not ideal, Winston is decent at breaking the bunker too, provided your entire team jumps in. Again, it's a very kamikaze style of attack, and essentially, you're expecting to die and just hoping to take some people with you. He can be very threatening when nano boosted, and his cleave is nice to hurt multiple members of the bunker at the same time. Then, like everything else I've described, once you build your ult, Primal Rage, you can definitely use it to knock people around and take them away from the protective bunker. Be careful though, as you will have a huge hitbox and Bastion can mow you down in seconds. Finally, let's talk supports. Supports probably have the least ability to break a bunker comp. It's a shame, but it's just how it is. You're kind of relying on your teammates to make your openings, but there are still some things you can do. The healer with the most power to take matters into her own hands is probably Ana. As always, Ana's kit is so strong and versatile that she has the power to potentially swing matches on her own. The best way to do this against a Bastion is to land an anti-nade. If a Bastion can't be healed, he's surprisingly easy to take down, and once you get Immortality Field out the way, he's easy pickings. Ana is particularly effective at doing this on payload maps, because when a Bastion is set up on a payload, there's opportunity for her to hide and wait for the Bastion to go past, and then drop a sneaky anti-nade from behind to shut him down. Often, this is the only reliable way of shutting down pirate ship comps, because unlike on other modes, it's the Bastion that's attacking, meaning that you have very limited windows of engagement. You can't always afford to bank ults and play for them, because by the time you get them, the Bastion might already have capped 2 or even 3 points. Nor do you always have the luxury of taking the time to set up your dives. So that's where the anti-nade gives you the power to make him so vulnerable, and you can shut the Bastion down and shut down his momentum. But on Hybrid and 2CP, it's a lot harder to get your nades around the shield and defense matrix, so making your abilities have impact is a lot harder. But if you can somehow get yourself into a good position, then both the anti-nade and sleep dart can make huge swings in the game. The next healer is not necessarily the most active participant in unlocking bunkers, but is certainly one of the most key enablers to doing so. Mercy. When you play Mercy in a DPS heavy comp, your job is really simple. Stay alive and enable as many people as you can. Because you have a lot of mobile heroes supporting you, who are spread out over various places on the map, you actually have a lot of Guardian Angel options, particularly when a Pharah is in play. That means you can be incredibly difficult to kill and give your team constant value. Getting a res can be difficult, since it's unlikely any of your teammates will have died in safe locations. But just constantly putting out heals and damage boost and using Valkyrie to enable multiple members at the same time will be the foundation on which your team will succeed. Unfortunately, in terms of other healers, there aren't really too many other great options. Zen and Lucio are okay, but they're both going to get fractional value from their kits. Lucio has no one to speed around, since everyone will be so spread out. Zenyatta can put down a Discord, sure, but he's never going to be able to peek, and he'll always be alone, so that Discord will quickly wear off when he loses LOS. Both of them can use their ultimates as an engagement tool to make sure the teams get in safely, but that's about it really. Moira is also super easy to shut down. If D.Va eats all her orbs, she's never going to build ult, even though Coalescence could be good against the bunker. Nor is she going to have many people to heal, because everybody will be spread out and out of her range. Now of course, all of this applies when we look at it through the lens of a DPS heavy comp, which is definitely the best strategy. However, I know a lot of you like to get creative with your approaches, and there is another option for those of you who like to do that, the Symmetra strats. Now, this isn't my personal favorite, but it's certainly viable, and you can make it work. Essentially, you use the Symmetra to teleport your team, either straight onto point if you can, or you slowly work your way around the bunker until you reach the point where you want to go. In this example, you can see that although most of our team dies, by forcing the bunker to move from where they were set up, it creates space for our Pharah and Symmetra to clean up and wipe the bunker. This is the point I was making about the ways in which bunker gets broken down. With the Symmetra and TP, you can theoretically run any comp you want. Some people like to run a Symmetra and then try to out-bunker the bunker. So in this scenario, you'd run a Bastion and a Risa 2 and try to out-DPS the enemy while using teleport to move your Bastion around. Personally, I'm not a fan of this strategy. In any shield war, the defending team will always have the advantage because they will have their shield down first and off cooldown. But for those of you who feel like it can work, go for it. Play your Risa and Bastion, wait for your Baptiste to build ult, and then just try to melt them down before they can respond. Some people even like to try just TPing right in the face of the bunker. And maybe this works, but ultimately that relies on them not having the smarts to break your TP when you put it down. Because if they do, it's very likely that only some of your team members are through, and that is just about the worst thing that can happen to you. And that's all I got for today, guys. I hope you found this video helpful, because I know that bunker is getting to be more and more of a common and meta comp as the days go by. I know a lot of you have told me that in some of the lower ranks, Bastion has already been a problem anyways, but now it's kind of getting through all the ranks, and in the games I played recently, it's pretty much been people picking Orisa at least all the time, and quite frequently characters like Hog and Bastion too. So hopefully, this guide will give you a bit of an idea what you can do as a collective to break down the bunker, and also what you can do in terms of who to pick to try and make the difference individually in breaking down the bunker. As always, I want to give a big shout out to my patrons, and particularly my new high tier patron, Ayaki. Thank you for your pledge. If you'd like to sign up too, there's a link in the video description, and there's also a link to my social medias, my Twitter and my Twitch, and a link to my Discord where you can group find, chat about Overwatch, and also join in some pickup games on Fridays and Saturdays. But that's all for today. I'll be back next week with another video. See you guys soon.